Dear Lord, he was coming closer. He meant to reach for the door. Lunging forward, she threw the lock and extracted the skeleton key just as his big hand turned the latch. Their eyes met, and the rain disappeared, as did everything and everyone else. Mena knew that there were moments in one's life as significant as an epoch. Existence, as a result, was split into a before and an after, and whatever was left as a consequence of that moment illuminated who someone really was. It laid one open, exposing the most vulnerable part of oneself for honest and brutal inspection, and the acceptance that inexorable change has been wrought. She'd lived long enough to experience a few of these. Her mother's death when Mena was only 9, her first real taste of tragedy. The first time she galloped on a horse on her father's farm and experienced true freedom. Her first kiss. The horror of her wedding night. The moment she was told she'd never be a mother. So she recognized this as one such moment. The Leviathan on the other side of the now seemingly inadequate barrier of the window was not the only one conducting the inspection. What Mena saw in the striations of amber and ebony in the Highlander's eyes alternately terrified and fascinated her. Here was a man capable of inconceivable violence, and yet a weary sorrow lurked behind the incredulity and subsequent exasperation in his glare. He might even be attractive beneath all that soot and filth, but in the feral and weathered way the Highlands themselves were appealing. Mena blinked, berating herself for noticing such a thing of her probably robber, highwayman, rapist, assassin, and the spell was broken. "Open the door," he commanded in a deep and booming brogue. "No," Mena answered, before remembering her manners. "No, thank you." They called him the Demon Highlander. Over the course of the previous 2 decades, Liam MacKenzie had led a number of Her Majesty's infantry, cavalry, and artillery units. He'd stormed countless mobs during the Indian Mutiny and made his fame when the so-called Indian Rebellion had been crushed. He'd facilitated the disbandment of the East India Company with espionage, assassination, and outright warfare, painting the jungles with blood until the Crown seized the regime. He led the charge against Chinese cannon in the Second Opium War, leaping from his horse over cannon fire and slicing through Asian artillery. He'd secretly conducted rescue missions to Abyssinia and Ashanti, leaving no trace of himself but for a mountain of bodies in his wake. He'd trained killers and killed traitors. He'd toppled dynasties and executed tyrants. He was William Grant Rory Mackenzie, Lieutenant Colonel of Her Majesty's Royal Secret Highland Watch, Marquess Ravencroft, and 9th Laird and Thane of Clan Mackenzie of Wester Ross. A high agent of the Crown and a leader of men was he.